You're listening to the Risen Howard podcast with John M. Laws and yours truly, Risen Howard, the great poupon. Now, back to the show. Ooh, yeah, baby, you are back. You're listening to the Riz Pod, the Risen Howard podcast, starring yours truly, Risen Howard, the great poupon, and my co-host, the incomparable John M. Laws. Hey, John, man, we got a sponsor.
Yes, sir, we do.
We got a sponsor, baby. This episode of the Riz Pod is being brought to you by the Sherman Park Barber Lounge, 3804 West Burleigh Avenue. Stop on in. My man Flip will get you crispy. Flip, the master barber. It's a 1 to 2 chair shop at times. Really cool. Got candies and stuff like that in there. Hair care products for sale. It's got a video game. Got Tekken. Old school Tekken. He got one of them up in there. And Tekken 2. And he hit you up, man. Get your line right. You know what I'm saying? Put in the texturizer kits. I've seen him do that. Seen him dye some hair. All that good stuff. But once again, that's the Sherman Park Barber Lounge, 3804 West Burleigh. Stop in, tell him that the Riz Pod sent you. You're looking for Flip, my man, to get you right. Now, and thanks again. And if you do want to advertise your product or service on the Riz Pod, hit us up at therizpod@yahoo.com. That's the rizpod@yahoo.com.
Yes,
so let's get back into what we was talking about here. Hey, John, I want you to go ahead, do your thing, man. This segment is called John's Thoughts.
All right. Let me clear my throat on that one. Tons and tons of things that we could talk about over this past week since you last heard from us. And I've got tons of information, so much information, in fact, that I figured I just have to stick down to one section, but that means that we'll have more shows and more content from just this week here. First thing I wanted to start off with was to say that I know that both Risen Howard and myself were sending our thoughts, prayers, and condolences, and even our financial gifts to those who were in the path of the hurricanes, both Hurricane Harvey that made landfall on August the 25th this year, and Hurricane Irma, which has made landfall in Florida, 2 landfalls as of today. As of 5:30 p.m., the second landfall was in Florida from Hurricane Irma. And I went to the National Hurricane Center's website to see what's the difference on the categories for the hurricanes, and it looks like both hurricanes were Hurricane Harvey was listed as a Category 4 hurricane, and Hurricane Irma, which is the most recent one that made landfall in Florida today, was listed as a Category 5. And just to give you comparison, 2005 Hurricane Katrina was a Category 5 and had wind speeds clocked once it made landfall of 174 miles per hour. So that's insane amount of winds. But according to the National Hurricane Center's website, the Saffir-Simpson Hurricane Wind Scale is a 1 to 5 rating system based upon hurricane sustained wind speed. This scale estimates potential property damage. Hurricanes reaching Category 3 or higher are considered major hurricanes because of their potential for significant loss of life and damage. Categories 1 and 2 storms are still dangerous. However, they also require preventative measures, but they're not as dangerous as the 3s and above, which are they're estimated to cause more potential life-threatening damage. And the Category 4 that the Hurricane Harvey has to make it to a Category 4, you have to have sustained winds of 130 to 156 miles per hour, and a Category 5 has sustained winds of at least 157 miles per hour, and these are according to the National Hurricane Center's website. So those are pretty serious storms, and if you haven't evacuated, we hope that you find shelter and a good place to buckle down. If you are going to stay there, all the authorities in the area and the National Weather Service are suggesting that everyone in the path that you do evacuate as soon as possible. Hopefully you've done so before now, because as I said, Hurricane Irma did make landfall the second landfall at 5:30 p.m. in Florida today. And according to contact reporters John Sherwa and Evan Halper of the LA Times, Hurricane Irma had a 350-mile wide girth, and it was estimated that the city would get hit with 90-mile-per-hour winds once it did come. We have no information of what the winds actually were once it made that second landfall, but they're estimating a storm surge of 3 to 6 feet, which is pretty devastating for any area that it would hit. So for those in Florida and for those in Texas, South Carolina, Georgia, and those in the Caribbean where both those hurricanes came through, we want you to know that you're in our prayers, and you're also in our financial gifts as well for those of us who are willing to donate. Speaking of which, if you're looking for a way to donate, I found a site here that's going to give you a couple good options here. Excuse me, we can post these on our site as well. If you're looking for a way to give, or you just don't know what to do besides your prayers and you want to make a financial contribution, a couple good sites that we can post for you to consider donating. And I'll just read the names and you can look those up, or we can post those as well later. United Way, there's a place called site called Team Rubicon, and that's a veteran-led disaster response team. The SPCA of Texas, the Human Society of United States Disaster Relief Fund, the Animal Defense League of Texas, Austin Pets Alive, the American Red Cross, Feeding Texas. We have another one here. Let's see. What's the other one from? Houston Food Bank. We have the Galveston Food Bank. These are all in Texas. Corpus Christi Food Bank, the Coalition for the Homeless of Houston, Airbnb, GoFundMe, Portlight, Texas Diaper Bank, Star of Hope Mission, Hope for Haiti, UNICEF USA, Global Giving, Direct Relief, and Samaritan's Purse. And any one of these sites would be an excellent location to donate cash, or to donate if you wanted to diapers, or if you wanted to donate toiletries of any kind. At this point, they said that the most beneficial gift would be cash if you can, but if you can send any of those items, that would be definitely helpful as well. So our next step, since we covered the hurricane, which was huge news, the most important news that I think that we can cover on our show, had a ton of information when I looked up David Clarke as the reason we brought up the Sheriff Post Sheriff Post person. Now, us in Wisconsin, Milwaukee specifically, are very, very familiar with Sheriff David Clarke, former Sheriff David Clarke. Extremely familiar. So for those who aren't, who may catch our show months from now, or if you're catching our show in a location that's outside of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, or if you're unfamiliar with Sheriff Clarke, locally, he's the former sheriff of Milwaukee County. He was here from 2002 2017. Listed as a controversial figure, according to the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, for statements he made that are quoted statements like this one: Black Lives Matter is a terrorist movement, a hate group, and he calls it Black Lies Matter. And this is according to PolitiFact Wisconsin as of April 17, 2017. And when he encouraged citizens to, and I quote, point the barrel center mass and pull the trigger because 911 is not our best option. That's from PolitiFact, also Wisconsin, and that was on August 7th, 2014, where he made those statements. And we'll post where you can find more statements that David Clarke made locally. This is just the local section of it here. Another local post that I found, and it was incredibly easy to find so much stuff about this man. When you have a character who was this, we'll start by saying he's flawed, because I haven't proven my case. We'll say when he's this flawed. Andrew de Grand Prix and Abby Phillip of the Washington Post called him, and these are quotes, a Democrat whose rhetoric and conservative political base more closely align with the Republican Party. Clarke has in recent years become a regular commentator on Fox News and used the platform to criticize President Barack Obama and assail many of his policies. Clarke is compared to Black Lives Matter movement, which aims to counter anti-black racism to the Ku Klux Klan, suggesting that it would team up with the Islamic State to overthrow the federal government. He labeled anti-Trump demonstrators as anarchists and said African Americans sell drugs because they're uneducated, they're lazy, and morally bankrupt. This was a generalized statement about African Americans. It wasn't specific. So I'm painting a good picture here. So, and these are all facts. I can submit the information. You can find it. Don't trick, like LeVar Burton used to say, don't take my word for it.
Right.
So, in his 15-year tenure as sheriff, also been a source of controversy. Most recently this year, I know we've heard this news big here, at least 4 people died in the Milwaukee County jail system between April 2015 and November 2016, including a newborn baby whose birth occurred unknown to Clarke's staff. In another case, his staff was accused of withholding water from an inmate who eventually died. And this was for 1 week that this inmate was withheld water. In January, a jury awarded $6.7 million to a woman who said she was repeatedly raped by guards at the jail. And he and his staff are under numerous lawsuits for various allegations of abuse and mistreatment within the Milwaukee County jail system here. So, tons of information. I even have more information, but the time is dwindling down, so we'll present it on another forum or on another day. But let's see if I can find another very interesting one. I'll leave you with this one for my thoughts, because I have so many thoughts. Alan Clarke of the Business Insider Journal on the January 4th, 2017 webpage said David Clarke, the Fox News sheriff, put Milwaukee on the back burner as he rides the Trump wave to stardom. So this is a national publication which basically is alluding to the fact that this character is not a good look for the national government, and he certainly wasn't a good look for the state of Wisconsin. So we'll maybe add an addendum with more information on there, but for now, it's a good thing for the state of Wisconsin that Sheriff Clarke has chosen to abandon his position by way of resignation, abrupt resignation, if you will. And unfortunately, it's not a great look for the Department of Homeland Security, which apparently it looks like he'll be working there, although the Department of Homeland Security issued a statement after he made his statement saying that if we do make a senior appointment, we do that in a different form by this. So any news that you heard may not be accurate.
He wears fake medals, man.
Right.
I don't
Captain
like the
Crunch. Or the Travelocity guy.
Right. Captain Obvious, man.
Right.
Yeah, so hey, that's the facts, man. These are, you can look all this information up, and that's what we know about David Clarke. Hey, man, and not to end on a negative note, man. Hey, I like that. That was your first John's thoughts, man.
Oh yeah,
I think
man.
You did a great job, buddy.
Oh man, the rabbit hole gets deeper.
All right, well, let's take a break, man. And when we get back, man, we're gonna get into the meat and potatoes, man. We're gonna review the movie 48 Hours. We'll be back.
Advertise your service, product, or business on the RizPod podcast by reaching out to us at TheRizPod@yahoo.com. That's the RizPod@yahoo.com.